Merhabalar. Bir haftayı daha hayli yoğun bir gündemle ardımızda bıraktık. Hiç vakit kaybetmeden kayıt altına aldığımız haftanın ifade özgürlüğü gelişmelerine hızlıca bir göz atalım.
Amnesty International has released its annual report evaluating the developments in the field of human rights in 154 countries. The report contains 6 pages devoted to Turkey, recording violations in many areas, from the judiciary to freedom of thought and demonstration, from torture to the rights violations experienced by women and the LGBTQ+. The highlights of the Turkey section, titled "There were violations of rights and protests all over Turkey in 2021" are as follows.
Deep flaws in the judicial system have not been remedied. Freedom of peaceful assembly was severely restricted. In the face of heavy attacks against freedom of expression, disproportionate force was used against people exercising their right to peaceful assembly. Serious and credible allegations of torture and other ill treatment were made. Oppositional politicians, journalists, human rights advocates, and others continue to face baseless investigations, trials, and convictions. Government officials targeting LGBTQ+ with homophobic rhetoric, increased physical attacks against immigrants with the rise of anti-refugee rhetoric, and Turkey's withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention were included in the report as major issues in Turkey.
A lawsuit was filed against 6 Chamber of Architects executive board members, including President Tezcan Karakuş-Candan, on the charge of making propaganda for a terrorist organization due to the award given to Cin TV within the Emre Madran Press Awards in 2021. The first hearing of the lawsuit will be held on June 23rd at Ankara 25th Assize Court.
A lawsuit has been filed against leftist party Ankara Keçiören District President Murat Güzel, who shared the photos of Mustafa Özenç, İlyas Has, and Hıdır Aslan, who were executed during the September 12 military coup on the social media. Güzel was charged with making successive propaganda for a terrorist organization, and an imprisonment sentence for up to 8 years and 9 months was claimed against him.
A lawsuit was filed against 2 leftist party members in Uşak due to their social media posts. Uşak 4th Criminal Court of First Instance accepted the indictment prepared against the 2 leftist party members on the charge of insulting the president through a cartoon shared on Facebook, as well as a public statement made by the party.
Emre Orman, who had been subjected to detentions and arrests due to his social media posts before as well, was detained with a police raid against his house in Ataşehir district of Istanbul.
Journalists Umut Yaygır and Özcan Saraç, who own a local website in Konya's Ereğli district, were attacked as they were eating at a restaurant in the district center. Expressing that the head of the Ereğli Grey Wolves was among the group of 10 to 15 people who attacked them, the journalists claim that the Nationalist Movement Party Ereğli Mayor Hüseyin Oprukçu ordered the attack against them.
Governorates in Diyarbakır and Şanlıurfa banned all kinds of meetings and demonstrations except for the events that the local administration deems appropriate. The ban, which has been on the protection of public order and national security, will be effective in Diyarbakır for 10 days between March 26 and April 4, and for 15 days between March 26 and April 8 in Urfa.
The Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure threatened the newspapers Sözcü, Bir Gün, Kokusuz, and Fikir, which reported on the data on the passages through the newly opened 1915 Çanakkale Bridge, and the passage guarantee cost the public 11 million Turkish liras in a single day. "We will not give up the fight against the denigrators," the ministry statement said.
Istanbul Anatolian Fifth Criminal Judicature of Peace issued an access ban against the news published on March 15 issue of Cumhuriyet Daily with the title "Criminal Complaints Against Gaziantep Governorate, Corruption and Bribery Network Revealed," regarding the criminal complaint made against 6 people, including Gaziantep Governor Davut Gül and former Deputy Governor Hüseyin Yılmaz, upon allegations of corruption and bribery during a tender issued by the Gaziantep Governorate around 4 years ago.
The residents continue to fight against the cutting of the trees in the Akbelen forest in the Milas district of Muğla for the supply of coal to the thermal power plant by YK Energy. The struggle has been going on for 3 years, and the villagers and environmentalists reacted to the incident when the teams of the company came to the region to cut down around 30 olive trees. The gendarmerie intervened against the villagers and environmentalists who did not want to leave the area and tried to make a press statement, detaining 2 people.
The chairman of Union of Energy Workers, Enerji Sen, which is affiliated to the Confederation of Revolutionary Workers Union of Turkey, DİSK, started a sit-in protest in front of Başkent Enerjisa against the dismissals of workers. There were many detainments during the sit-in protest, including Chairman Süleyman Keskin and founding Chairman Kamil Kartal.
The police intervened against the statement that was intended to be made in Kadıköy district of Istanbul on the 50th anniversary of the Kızıldere massacre on the grounds that there was a ban of the district governorate, battered many protesters and detained them.
In the case of the murder of the Washington Post columnist and Saudi journalist Kemal Khashoggi at the Consulate General of Saudi Arabia in Istanbul, 26 defendants stood trial at the Istanbul 11th Assize Court. Citing difficulties, the prosecutor's office requested that the case to be stopped, and the case file will be handed over to the Saudi Arabian judicial authorities. The court requested the opinion of Ministry of Justice on the request and adjourned the hearing to April 7.
The Constitutional Court ruled that the right to hold meetings and demonstrations, which is guaranteed in Article 34 of the Constitution, has been violated, with the administrative fines imposed on those who held a sit-in protest in Tunceli on September 5, 2019 against the trustee operations on People's Democratic Party municipalities, as well as against those who participated in various press statements held in Mersin in 2019 and 2020.
Gelelim adliye koridorlarına. İfade özgürlüğü savunucularının adliye mesaisi bu haftada öncekileri aratmadı.
Journalist Çetin Yılmaz was sentenced to 1 year, 6 months, and 22 days of imprisonment in the lawsuit filed against him on the charge of making propaganda for a terrorist organization. The court deferred the announcement of the verdict.
The first hearing of the lawsuit filed against Can Özer was held at Diyarbakır 4th Assize Court on charges of making propaganda for a terrorist organization through the press. Can Özer was previously prosecuted for her social media posts between 2014 and 15, and the case resulted in non-prosecution. While the prosecutor's office included the same posts in the indictment, this time the journalist will stand trial for the posts made on another social media account, which the journalist claimed did not belong to her. An imprisonment claim was made against Jin News reporter Beritan Can Özer for up to 5 years. The next hearing was scheduled for June 21st.
In the third hearing of the lawsuit filed against writer Yavuz Ekinci on the charge of making propaganda for a terrorist organization, Ekinci was sentenced to 1 year, 6 months, and 22 days of imprisonment. The court deferred the announcement of the verdict.
Homeland Party Chairman Muharrem İnce was sentenced to 11 months and 20 days of imprisonment on the charge of insulting the president due to the speech he gave at the Republican People's Party Uşak provincial chairmanship in 2016 when he was a Republican People's Party parliament member. Uşak Third Criminal Court of First Instance commuted the prison sentence into a judicial fine of 7,000 Turkish liras.
Celal Çelik, the lawyer of Republican People's Party Chairman Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, was prosecuted for saying the criticism of my client and my chairman Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu on corruption are true. The tapes are real and we will prove them. In his defense statement during the compensation lawsuit filed by President Erdogan on charges of insult and abuse of attorneyship. In the hearing at the Istanbul Anatolian 6th Assize Court, the prosecutor's office presented their opinion and requested that Çelik be penalized for insulting the president. The hearing was adjourned to September 30.
The prosecution of Cumhuriyet Daily's managing editor Olcay Büyüktaş, managing editor İpek Özbey, and photo reporter Vedat Arık continued at the Istanbul 25th Assize Court following the criminal complaint of Presidential Communications Director Fahrettin Altun on charges of targeting those taking part in the fight against terrorism and violation of privacy due to the news article published in the newspaper on an illegal construction at the Bosphorus. The hearing was adjourned to September 27th.
The prosecution of Mesopotamia Agency editor Abdurrahman Gök continued at the Diyarbakır Fifth Assize Court on charges of terrorist organization membership and making propaganda for a terrorist organization on the grounds of his phone calls with news sources, his social media posts, and the news he reported. Announcing their opinion, the prosecutor's office requested the acquittal of the journalist of the charge of terrorist organization membership, whereas requested that he be punished on the charge of successively making propaganda for a terrorist organization. The next hearing of the case will be held on June 30.
The first hearing was held in the lawsuit filed against 103 retired admirals at the Ankara 20th Assize Court on the charge of consenting to commit a crime against the constitutional order due to a statement they made in which they drew attention to the importance of the Montreux Convention. The court decided to abolish the judicial measures in the form of travel ban for those whose defenses were completed, and the hearing was adjourned to June 27th.
The prosecution of 24 women continued at the Izmir 7th Criminal Court of First Instance within the lawsuit filed against them on charges of denigrating the state, violating of law meetings and demonstrations due to the demonstration organized in Izmir on December 15, 2019 with the Elasticist demonstrations, which started in Chile as a reaction to violence against women and later spread throughout the world. The hearing was adjourned to September 29.
The first hearing of the lawsuit filed against 3 rights advocates who were detained in Cihangir during the 2021 Istanbul Pride Parade was held at Istanbul 14th Criminal Court of First Instance on the charge of violating the law on meetings and demonstrations number 2911. The court decided that the criminal elements on the charge imposed on the defendants were not constituted, issuing the acquittal of all defendants.
A lawsuit filed against 2 children who were detained during the first Eskişehir LGBTQ+ Pride Parade held in June last year has been concluded. Eskişehir's Second Juvenile Court acquitted the 2 children whom the prosecutor's office charged with violating the law on meetings and demonstrations. In the recent decree of the court, it was emphasized that it is a right to organize meetings and demonstration marches, referring to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UN Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the European Convention on Human Rights, and Turkish Constitution. The trial of 16 others detained during the parade continues at the Eskişehir 8th Criminal Court of First Instance. The second hearing of the lawsuit filed against LGBTQ+ activists, who stood trial for the first time on March 7, will be held on April 26.
In the lawsuit of moral compensation filed by the T3 Foundation against journalist Çiğdem Toker due to her article published in Sözcü Daily with the headline "Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality Issues Service Report for Foundation," the Küçükçekmece 10th Civil Court of First Instance issued 30,000 Turkish liras of moral compensation to be paid to the foundation.
The latest hearing of the lawsuit filed against 7 students at the Istanbul 21st Criminal Court of First Instance on the charge of public incitement towards resentment and hostility on the grounds of the Kabe image and LGBTQ+ flags taking place in an exhibition held as a part of the trust director protests at Boğaziçi University was adjourned to June 1 due to the judge's leave of absence.
The lawsuit filed against 17 people, including journalists Eylem Yavaş, Sema Karakurt and Metin Cihan, who were detained during the G20 summit protests held in Antalya in 2015 on charges of resisting to prevent duty and insult, continued at the Antalya 25th Criminal Court of First Instance. Deciding to wait for the execution of the arrest warrant for some of the defendants, the court adjourned the case to September 13th.
The latest hearing of the lawsuit filed against journalist Ismail Saymaz was held at the Niğde Second Court of First Instance on the charge of obtaining personal data on the grounds of Saymaz bringing up to the incident that a public prosecutor raided a hospital in Kayseri with an article he wrote in March 2020. The court denied the request to obtain the camera footage of the hospital and adjourned the hearing to June 28 in order for the prosecutor to prepare his opinion on the merits.
In the lawsuit filed against journalist Rustam Batum on charges of insulting the president and public incitement towards hatred and hostility due to his social media posts, the Istanbul Fifth Criminal Court of First Instance decided to wait for the execution of the arrest warrant issued against a journalist who resides abroad and adjourned the hearing to June 14th.
The prosecution of 75 people, including previously shut down digital news agency Batman reporter Engin Eren, continued at the Batman Second Assize Court on charges of terrorist organization membership, aiding a terrorist organization, participating in unlawful meetings and demonstrations, violating the law on the military forbidden zones and security areas, using force to threat against a public official to prevent duty on the grounds of the Human Shield protest organized in Batman in 2015 to demand an end to the conflicts in the region. The case was adjourned to May 20.
Ülkenin ifade özgürlüğü gündemini her hafta olduğu gibi yine kayıt altına almaya devam edeceğiz. Yeniden görüşünceye kadar hoşça kalın.